This episode of the Round 6 podcast is brought to you by Trailer Tug, the world's strongest trailer dolly. Learn more at trailertug.com. Welcome to the Round 6 podcast, a weekly roundtable discussion featuring a variety of automotive subjects, interviews, special guests, and stories. Hosted by the Round 6 Gearheads, Brian Stubsky, Alex Welsh, and Brad King. Here on episode 61, it's literally an art-filled episode as we welcome Disney artist, airbrush prodigy, and the Forrest Gump of the art world, Art Alvarez. Welcome to the Round 6 podcast. I'm Brian.
I'm Brad.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Art.
There we have it. We are, it is a true honor to be here on episode 61 with an artist whose work I look up to on so many different levels. Man, the one, the only Art Alvarez. Thanks for joining us, man.
Wow, what an introduction. That's great. Can we kind of keep that in file for a while? And look at this, 61, and I'm 61 years old, ready to turn 62. So what a number, great number to be in.
We'll have you back for 62 then. Screw it. We'll just keep this thing going.
Yeah. Well, that'll be next year. No, it's great to be on here. As I was talking earlier with you guys, I was just catching up on some of the radio hearings or what's it, podcasts. I don't even know, but I'm catching up on it. You were talking earlier about I'm more than an artist, and it's funny that you would clamp onto that because there's so many facets to me and where I started and how I got into this gig. I always loved, as everybody knows, you're always that kid in class getting in trouble for drawing cars. I mean, I think most of us in this arena right here, and most of us that have done a podcast, were those guys that I love the cars. I mean, who didn't love hot rods as they were kids? And it kind of came off my older brother. He had a 1955 Chevy, and it was a gasser.
Ooh.
And it was an awesome car, and he would take me on rides on it, and I'm just thinking to myself, this is awesome. This is created, just incredible, right? So that's where my starting, I was always an artist, but I started drawing hot rods and getting cartoon magazines and copying them as much as I can. And that got me in trouble, of course, like everybody else that kind of has their artistic story as growing up as a little hot rod artist. Well, that was me, and I guess everybody else as well. But as growing up, I never knew what an airbrush was, even through high school. They never known, you don't have that in the curriculum of this is an airbrush and this is how it works. I kind of found it by accident. I was working for Foot Locker as a manager, and us managers at Modesto, and Modesto being like the hometown of graffiti, American graffiti, that's where the story's told, Stockton, Modesto, Turlock. I happened to live in Modesto, and McHenry was the big cruise. So working at Foot Locker, us managers at the mall there decided to go to a car show. Now, I came from a small town in San Ynez Solvang. I don't know if you guys know where that's at, but it's a real small town. Mm-hmm. But great town. It's a great town to visit. You have Solvang, you have the Danish pastries, you got all that stuff going on.
Pea soup Andersons.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So when I went to Modesto, of course, who went to the cruise, I had never been to a car show. Because of this little town, then moving to Modesto, which is a little cow town in itself. A car show came into Turlock. A bunch of us guys got together. I'm excited. I want to go see a car show. I've heard all about these. So we head out to this car show, and it's four of us. And we come into this first building, and it's almost like the Fairplex in Turlock. You have those kind of hangar-looking places where you have all the cars in. So we go into the first hangar, and literally I stopped in my tracks because I saw the Great Renero airbrush and T-shirts. I was just stunned. This was it. I just couldn't believe it. And I didn't talk to him for a while because I stood back. I wanted to see what was going on. I was really just captivated. I even told the guys, you guys keep going. I want to check this out. I'm watching this guy airbrush. And I'm thinking to in my mind, like everybody else, there's money here. There's absolute money because I can see it going all through the counters. So after about 15, 20 minutes, I walked to him. I said, man, what is this? And he's kind of giving me this weird look. But when people walk up to your booth, and even I knew when later on, you have this glassy look. And I can tell when kids come up, like, what is that kind of thing? And what are you doing? And I understand it. So he knew that I was really interested in what was going on. So he made it sound like he had it cornered on this part of the world and I shouldn't partake in any type of venture. so, so that told me, man, I'm in. I'm absolutely in. And so he would not tell, this was back in the 1979, 1980. He's not going to tell me shit. He's not going to tell me anything because that's the way it was. A lot of artists would keep to themselves. I knew that there was this little item out there, and I took a good look at it. So the next day in Modesto, they had just built an Aaron Brothers. So there I go, and I'm asking for this, and I don't even know the name. I'm saying it's a pistol-looking thing. There's paint coming out. It sounds like there's air. I'm literally describing it to her. She goes, "Oh, you mean an airbrush? That's it. That's what I want." She says, "God, I can't. There's no one here behind the airbrush counter. It's a specialty thing, but the gentleman will be in next week, or not next week, the next day." And I said, "All right, I'll be in the next day." Sure enough, I'm there. But this is how it started. I knew nothing about what I was getting into. Long story short, I'm with an airbrush in my hand. I'm in my garage. I have a pump. I got a hose. I got paint. I got material, and I'm just painting my ass off. And I'm just painting and painting and painting. I don't know what I'm doing. There's no YouTubes. There's nobody that I can go to kind of ask what's going on here. But I did take some stuff back to the guy that sold me the airbrushes. And he says, "My God, who's teaching you? How do you know all this stuff?" And I go, "Well, I'm just learning on my own. This is, what do you think?" He says, "Well, you're doing great, but you're missing a couple of stuff." So I don't know if you guys know what a Model H Pache is, but it's just an automatic trigger. It has no double action net at all. It's you push down, you get paint.
I got to go in because that was what I started with. That was my first airbrush.
Yeah. And that's what he said.
I started with a Badger 150. Wow, that's weird. Okay.
Yeah. And now everybody knows with the H, again, push down, paint comes out. But he said, down here at the bottom, if you turn it a little bit, you're going to get an incredible line. Your lines are going to get a lot more defined. So he showed me these little tricks here and there, and sure enough, I go back and I do it again, and come back a week later and show me. He goes, "My God," he says, "Wow, this is incredible." So he shows me his work, and this old guy worked back in the 50s doing the black and white artwork that you would see in Look magazine or Digest magazine, the old magazines that showed the advertisement for Ford or Oldsmobile or whatever. But he had these beautiful renderings that he did back in the 50s, and I'm like, "Oh my God, this is what it does." So that gave me a chance. It gave me a look to what this item can do. So I go to swap meets and I start there. In Ceres, which is between Modesto and Turlock, is where literally I started my gig. I'm working at Foot Locker as a manager. I'm taking my time off when I want to because being the manager, I can make my own schedule. So I would either do it a Saturday or a Sunday, and or maybe Saturday and Sunday, take the weekend off, but I'd be working over there. So like anything else, little by little, I'm making some money, and then little by little, I'm making more money. Before you know it, people are making orders. In about a month and a half, I'm making more money on a 1 to 2 day venture at a swap meet than I am at a manager at Foot Locker. I mean, it wasn't hard to think about this, that this is going somewhere. This is going big, and I'm having a blast. I'm doing exactly what I want. So I call my parents up and I go, "Listen, I'd like to come back home and live there for a while. I have this great idea. I think it's going to really work." And my mom says, "Okay, you can come, but I don't want you goofing around. I want you working at what you're talking about here." So that's how it starts. And I moved back home worked for about 3 months, worked out of the garage, and just went nuts with my airbrushing because I wanted to get everything out. I wanted to really get into what I was doing. Before you know it, my cousins get a hold of this. I'm in San Ynez, back to San Ynez again. So now my cousins in LA are going, dude, you need to be in LA. Your stuff will just go bonkers in LA. And this is the time, uh, 80, 81, where the mini truck craze is going on. The California bug thing is just starting. It's starting to take off, and it's seventh heaven. It just goes nuts. I mean, I'm printing money, literally printing money. I'm going to car shows. I'm going to swap meets. In fact, my main swap meet was La Mirada. I don't know if you guys ever been to the La Mirada swap meet, but that's like the mother lode of swap meets in that area. And man, I just went to town. Absolutely, I can keep going. I mean, I've got tons of stuff. If you guys are
Oh
willing
no,
to
this is
listen.
great. What were your designs you were mostly doing at the beginning? Were you doing
Oh, hot
faces?
rods.
Were you doing cars only?
Yeah,
Were you
yeah.
doing people's names?
The only thing I would do is cars. That's
Okay.
all I knew what to do
Okay.
was cars. And at that time, of course, once I got to make friends on the other side of the ocean, would be Florida, of course. They're doing sunsets. They're doing all this colorful stuff. And I have no idea yet, because in the beginning, there was no magazine. The magazine of Airbrush Action didn't come out till about 1985, 86.
85, yeah.
And that was the first Airbrush Action before Stiglitz took it over. And there was maybe 8 to 10 episodes of Airbrush Action before it went on to what it is now. So that's how you kind of learned what was going on the other side of the pond. Now you kind of get a legit what's going on. But in 1983, I'm working at one of my first big car shows with RG Canning Custom Rod Show here in Long Beach. And I'm setting up and I'm putting all my stuff up. And I have a friend of mine that's helped me out. And I'm doing a shirt that was already ordered. And he taps me and he says, Art, Ed Roth is coming to your booth. And I'm like, what? And I thought he was just kidding me. And sure enough, I turn around and there's Big Daddy Ed Roth. And he goes, hey, kid, he says, wow, how long have you been doing this? And I go, I don't know, a couple of years. He says, these are crazy. These are great. How much you making on them? I go, about $35. No, you're not making 35. I'm making about 35. He says, back in my day, I was making about $5 to $10 on these. Wow. Wow, as times change. And he says, I really like your style. And this is awesome. I've heard a little bit about you. And I just wanted to come and say hi. And I said, well, thank you, Ed, man. Wow, I'm dropping my jaw. I'm trying everything to kind of compose myself, having Ed Roth there in front of my booth. So he leaves and he comes back about half an hour later. He says, hey, kid, he says, I've been thinking. He says, how would you like to tour with me a little bit? And I'm like, what? He says, how would you like to tour with me a bit? He says, I'm not able to do this, quite frequently, but if I had you there, you can airbrush while I do some other stuff, and you just go wherever I go on these tours. And I'm like, I'm in. Are you kidding me? This is my foot through the door. It's a celebrity. It's my hero. It's my icon. I'm going to get to work with Big Daddy Ed Roth. So there it goes. 2 weeks later, there I am at Lake Havasu, and he has a big event going on there, and I'm in the booth, and we're off. We're off and running, and now we're like friends. We're talking, and he's even learning off me a little bit. I'm learning off him a little bit. Let's jump a couple of months. As I'm airbrushing, the problem is that I could not sign the artwork. I'm working on an umbrella of Big Daddy Ed Roth. I get these guys that come and said, hey, can you sign the bottom? Nope. I can't, I'm sorry, I can't do any. Oh, come on. They're asking me, you got to sign. So these guys would come back later and say, here's a $20 bill, sign, give me a signature. I go, I really can't. But later on, it seemed like, well, all right. Some of the $20 bills came into $50 bills. Granted, they've already paid for the shirt. They're paying me extra to sign the shirt. And these are guys, and you know who they are. They keep coming to these car shows, and they know who you are, and you keep seeing them in these different places. And as they get to know you and they see the artwork, they love to have a signature. So this was going on for a little bit where some guys would ask for the signature and they'd tip me and I'd sign it and send it off. Well, Ed kind of got a hold of this stuff, and he was pretty sharp about how, this is his place and no signature. And boy, we had it out. And it was like, I'm sorry, Ed, I'm sorry, it won't happen again, kind of thing. So that only took about 5 months. And sure enough, here it comes again. You get the guys asking for that tip and that signature. But I think I was set up the second time because the tip went up to about 80 to $100, and it's something you just like. And I thought, God, it almost seems like I'm set up at that because I'm ready to leave. I'm ready. I think I've grown enough, and I've got a following now. And if this is set up, so let it. Sure enough, about an hour later, he comes back with the guy that I signed the T-shirt for, and that was it. So before we got in the argument, I said, Ed, God, I'm sorry, but I have to go. This has been wonderful. And of course, he comes back like, you kids, you don't know anything. I was going to make you famous. I was going to do this for you and do that for you. God, you took advantage of me and all this. I go, Ed, no. I'm sorry about, I'm trying to backtrack on this. But that was it. That was about 1984 to 85. And I'm on my own. And now I got a following. I'm going to the RG County Custom Rod shows back again on my own, going to different type of locations, and just it started to really blossom. And I'm going from now T-shirts to painting cars. I'm doing the names on the doors. I think you guys know Bob Hayes, and he's the president of Sunset Truckers. He got me into the RG County Custom Rod shows, and he too kind of got me in front of Ed Roth. They two are friends. So it goes from there to designing T-shirts to doing Sunset Trucker behind windows. I'm not only airbrushing, but I'm now getting into another form of doing murals on cars, painting vans, doing all that and the like. This is when Tools of the Trade Show were starting to hit big in Pasadena, and this was about 1987, 86 to 87, and we're going to all these trade shows. This is where Badger had their booth there, and I didn't know who Badger was. I knew who Pache was. I knew all of this stuff, but Badger had in this event there in Pasadena, had a T-shirt. This was new to me because now there's a double out there in front. I'm out, and as I'm doing my little hot rod of the T-shirt in front of them, and little did I know the owner of Badger was there. They're going, "Oh my God, who are you? What are you doing? How do you do that?" Wondering, wow, look at this guy. He's doing these hot rods and he's just drawing them and putting them on these shirts. And that's how it began with a little relationship with Badger. Before you know it, I'm flown to Chicago to design an airbrush for them, for apparel, which was called the Crescendo. So here's a guy that designed, started with nothing, and I'm just building a little portfolio, and it's just going. And now I'm designing an airbrush with Badger, and now they're paying me royalties, and they're literally flying me all over the United States to all these art shows and these conventions. And they're even putting my name in some of the rosters that I'm there, come see Art Alvarez. So this is how people are now starting to get to know me. Now I'm getting to know guys from Florida. They've heard of me, and now the magazines are coming out. My artwork is coming out. I'm now in Truckin' Magazine. There's a spread there with the 4 airbrushers. I think we had Kawaguchi. We had Gemini, and we were all the big airbrushers back in that day of doing apparel, car shows, and murals on cars. So they had a big spread on Truckin' Magazine. So things are starting to really hit. But like everybody else, we as artists, things happen to our life. And I got a divorce in 1990. And boy, it just hit me hard. I mean, all this was going on, and I get a divorce, and it was terrible. Absolutely drug me through the coals. Like everything else, when a door closes, a window opens kind of deal. And somebody said there was a big art show and airbrush show in Anaheim, Coast Airbrush. They said that there's going to be a lot of people there. You can get a booth. Let's see what you have. And in fact, the Disneyland people are going to be there because they need some help with some backgrounds for Beauty and the Beast. So this was my in. I don't know if I'm going to get it, but let's give it a try. So I got a booth out there. I just so happened to be doing a portrait of Jackie Gleason at the time. There was all these cameras on me. There was, some media that was there. People, I have a big crowd looking, and I was one of the first ones back in the day when I did my portraits. They looked like photographs. I just had a knack to do portraits, and I loved doing them. I love doing my hot rods as well, but portraits were really a big thing that was starting to happen, and I was one of those guys in the forefront doing this type of work that people couldn't realize what detail I was putting into these shirts. So it just so happens that Disney's people were there walking by, and they're looking at me doing the shirt of Jackie Gleason. I have this huge crowd around me. I got cameras on me, and they're going, "Well, who's this guy?" Again, my life, like everything else, is like a Forrest Gump movie, because it's always that way. And it is with a lot of guys, but a lot of optimism, of course, but these little Forrest Gump moments where you're just there at the right time, at the right place. And it's sure enough, when the show is just about over, I get confronted by them, and they ask if I could come in to the back lot of Disneyland. They have a project that they're working on, and they'd like to know if I'd want to partake in it. Of course, I'm in. Are you kidding me? I'd more than be happy to see what they want. So I go back there, and it's these little marquettes. What happens is that what Disneyland does, they build these little scenes that is downtown, actually on Main Street at Disneyland, and they kind of feature whatever the feature film is. And at that time, it was Beauty and the Beast, and they do these little scenes, maybe about 6 windows. And so I'm in charge of doing some of the backgrounds, some of the airbrush backgrounds. What I was told is that there's going to be a chance that 2 of us out of the 4 are going to be hired to go full time. And an older gentleman came up to me that I made friends with. He says, "Man, you need to learn how to paintbrush." And I go, "Well, I can paintbrush, but no," he says, "you need to learn to do it the way we do it here." So this guy named John Denton takes me to his house, and he shows me how to load a brush right with acrylic, how to blend, how to mix, how to just about do everything with a paintbrush. So about a month before this little gig was over, I'm now painting the maquettes, and I'm doing all types of work with the little things that need to be painted with a brush, not only the airbrush, but the brush. Lo and behold, I do get the job with Disneyland, and now I'm working at Disneyland, which is awesome because I have this divorce going on, and I don't have to think. As an artist, and as we paint and we design, sometimes it's hard when we got a lot of things in our head to really design, to do the things that we want. Well, with this divorce, it was really impaling my thinking, my thought, and knowing that my kids are not with me anymore, and I have to fight for them, and I got to do this, and I got to do that. So getting hired with Disney was heaven sent, because now I can work. I don't have to really stress out any much. The job was easy. It was fun. I can go on all these rides. I rehabbed the Pirates of the Caribbean. I was rehabbing all these rides that I only wished I could have been behind the scenes, and now I'm behind the scenes on them. I mean, what artist wouldn't just die to go paint there, and do the murals and do all these paintings? So this was seventh heaven, and it just goes on and on. While I'm working there at Disney, the guys at the store, at the airbrush store, say, "Hey, we know a guy that does Disney artwork, and he does posters." And he says he's looking for an apprentice. There's no money in it, but maybe you can learn how to do the things you've always wanted to do. And I said, "I'm in. Let's do this." So I get introduced to a guy named Eddie Young. He's been doing, video covers, VHS covers, posters, layouts, children's books. He does it all. And now I'm in his studio, and he's teaching me how to do these types of work with, and this is old school. This is with mats. You got to cut your mat. You got to airbrush. You got to line. You got to do all these particulars. I took on that like fish to water. I mean, this was right up my alley, and so much so that I got, in about 2 or 3 months, I got to be better than him, in a sense that when he was doing his line work, he was using this weird little brush to do the lines to the outside of the characters, and they really wasn't up to par to me. So I used a dagger, a longer dagger, and he said, "No, that's going to be so hard." But to me, it was second nature to use a dagger to do all the line work, to go from thin to thick to thin. And that's the way, I kind of taught him how to do the line work. Before you know it, he's got a friend, and that's Willie Ito, one of the main art directors at Disney, to get an interview with. And that's all I needed was a foot through the door. Because while I'm working with Eddie, I'm building my own portfolio. I'm taking this home. So I'm doing 3 jobs. I'm working at Disneyland. I'm moonlighting with this Eddie Young and doing the artwork there. And then I'm building my own portfolio. Like
Well,
anything else.
I gotta interrupt. When did you find time to eat and sleep?
No, that like anything else, and you guys know this. When you're committed to something, when you really want to do something, when you know in your bones of bones, this is what you have to do, you do it. You find it. I was probably getting in 3 to 4 hours sleep. But
That's about it. Yeah, and if you
Yeah.
accidentally ingest some Van Dyke Brown while
Yeah.
you're doing this, you can go for like an extra week.
no, exactly. But excitement is what gets you going. You wanna achieve what you're looking at. You see the tunnel, you see the light over there, so you want to achieve it. And this is what it was. It was just absolute inertia, absolute. I want to do this, and everybody knows, and you guys know it too. You are where you are because you do that extra bit that no one thinks you're supposed to do, but you do it anyway. So that's what I was doing, doing the three things. So I now have a portfolio. Oh, and by the way, while I was building my portfolio, so that I worked at Disneyland, Pocahontas was coming out, and no one had the artwork of Pocahontas. No one had the artwork, but Disneyland did, because they get it ahead of time so they can start setting up the park with Pocahontas stuff. So we were getting all the guides to Pocahontas. So I'm taking some of that stuff, I'm redoing it, I'm taking copies of it, I'm taking it home, and I'm redoing artwork with Pocahontas in it because that's the feature film. So when I went into my interview, they were astounded that I had Pocahontas work because, see, no one has it. Not even the other illustrators, the freelancers, they don't have it yet because they can't get it yet. They don't know how to get it. It's nowhere to be sought after. But if you worked at Disneyland, you had privy to this type of artwork. So here I am doing all this artwork. So when he saw it, he was like, "Oh my God, I need to call." Well, anyway, this interview with this director was only supposed to last half an hour. And Eddie told me, "This is how it goes. You won't get called in yet. It'll take about a week or two, but believe me, you'll get called. You got great work. Don't worry about it. But, don't expect anything out of this. Just show them the portfolio." Well, I was in there for about 5 hours with this guy while he's calling other art directors up and sending me to different places, showing my portfolio to different art directors. I mean, you couldn't script this. This was unfreaking believable for a first time guy hitting the bricks, talking to one of the main art directors there and going just full on and getting more jobs as it went on. So needless to say, about 2-3 weeks later, I get the gig for Pocahontas. And that's where my life turned for, of course, the better. I was still working at Disneyland. I didn't quit there until I got the job with Pocahontas. And once I got that, then I quit Disneyland. And that was it. Dude, I mean, again, a script. You couldn't write it because here I am working on feature film product, and I am the guy doing video covers, I'm the guy doing posters, I'm the guy doing key artwork, I'm the guy doing all this type of work. And this was my first gig. And even Eddie Young, that has been doing this for years and years and years, only wish he could do something like this. But again, here's that Forrest Gump moment where right place, right time, right artwork, right portfolio gets me right into those doors. I mean, I think I worked for about 3 months straight, got a little bit of sleep, and made about $65,000 in about 3 months.
Ooh.
And I still have a check of $25,000. One of the many checks that I got that was just put in my bank with my name on it, and from the Disney Studios, from Buena Vista Home Video, and that was it. I started doing children's books. I started doing from all these other art directors. I'm just in the Disney moment and doing all this artwork. The problem was 2 to 3 years later, the digital art started coming in, and little by little, that started fading away. The old style, illustration board type of work start going out of fashion. And sure enough, little by little, I'm getting these calls. Can you make this digital? And I'm like, no, I don't do digital. And of course, other colleagues now that I'm learning and knowing and making friends with, there's like saying, Art, you got to get into digital. And I just couldn't make the cross. I knew nothing about this digital stuff. And so that was my downfall. Is I got into it late, got into it kind of really late, because as soon as I couldn't do any more illustrations, it took me about a year to literally do. And we all know about Photoshop, starting in it. I mean, it was daunting. It was something that I just thought I would never, take on, and we don't. I think all of us, and if we're, up to the task, we only probably know 45% of Photoshop, 35%. I mean, there's so much to learn on Photoshop, but for what we need, we only learn what we need to learn with Photoshop. So I did enough to do exactly what I did in my illustration to do in Photoshop. And it took me about a year to understand paths and linear lines with different layers and color and all this stuff. But it was easy. It made things a lot easier, and I wish I would have attacked it a little bit, earlier. But that's us. That's what we do. So that's where we go from there. That's why I'm kind of different from the other automotive illustrators. I kind of came in and out. I was brave enough to do both. But then as I learned the digital, I learned that, wait a minute, how would my cars look in digital? Now I know all this Disney work, all this backlighting, all this highlighting, all this stuff. Let's give that a try. So I started to learn how to do all these renderings through Photoshop a little bit better. I learned about grayscaling everything and then throwing color on top of it with an overlay and color, and so that I can make that car any color I wanted. I mean, it was just, again, a learning curve. And when I was learning this, of course, YouTube wasn't there. You didn't get the how to do this or how to do that. You kind of trial and error. And I had friends that also did the digital work, and it just kind of spun off to there. Before you know it, I'm working at the Disney store now, and I got hired there, and now I'm doing digital Disney artwork, which, again, Forrest Gump happened to be there at the right place at the right time. Now, here's a guy that you guys need to talk with. That's Ruben Hante, and Ruben Hante and I are about the same kind of. Anybody here know Ruben Hante?
I know.
I
Ruben.
remember when he was doing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Him and I became friends years ago when he was doing the Elvira bug, and his famous car. It was on Hot Rod magazine, and it was the bug in front with the mural Elvira. The thing was awesome, absolutely awesome. And he did some awesome murals. He did some awesome artwork, and we did some projects together. He's the one that kind of turned me on to a lot of this other artwork that I got to know. And this is that disconnect, going from cars to Disney to cars. Long story short, and is that I'm producing a book. I'm kind of done. I'm not gone yet. I will still be doing illustrations of cars, and you've seen the digital work that I do, but I'm getting into oil painting, and that's something that I've always wanted to do, and it's another level of artwork that I've kind of went into this like fish to water.
Well, I was going to say that's how you make me sick, Art. Everything you touch, man, you have a natural knack for. God, for every bit that I respect you, I love your work. For me, it's like an iceberg. There's an amount below where I despise you so much.
Well, here's the grand opus behind this painting is that you will hear from me in about 3 years, 3 to 4 years, because I will be putting some paintings, and I know what I'm going to do, and they're going to be going into the museum at the Peterson Auto Museum, and that's why I'm learning a little bit more. And I really love. It's funny that your first episode was Tom Fritz, because that guy, I'm telling you, is one awesome artist, and he too is a guy that I look up to. I get inspired when I go to his booth. He's the nicest guy.
Oh yeah.
And it's just his artwork is so tremendous. It's out of this world as an automotive illustrator, and there's many others as well. But I really love his artwork. So getting back to finishing what I'm doing here, I'm publishing a book. It's called Cartoons, and from afar it looks like cartoons, but the car is for the automotive illustration, and the tunes is for the licensed characters. So it's a coffee table book. It's my life story in this book. So what you kind of heard here, you'll kind of read through the book and a little bit more, but you'll see all the eye candy from the beginning of my airbrushing days. I still have a lot of film and what do they call just old pictures from back in the day. And so we'll put that together, put together my Disney work, put together my digital work. I also ran a Big and Rigged, which was a trucking company doing hot rigs and selling them to the truckers, which was a great little gig. So everything will be in there until this here. And what I want to mention here, and I'm going to plug myself a little bit, I am going to do 240 airbrush shirts. And this is to help me publish the book that I'm doing. These 240 shirts are going to range from about $300 to $400. And they come with a letter of authenticity from me, because there's not many airbrushers out there anymore. I go to these car shows. When I went, we were fighting for the areas. There were 4 airbrushers and 3 to 4 at a car show. Now you rarely see any airbrusher. You might see the giant out there, but you don't see, but he's going to be gone. But you don't see any young guys doing the airbrush, which I want to go to somewhere that they have the meetings for these shows and try to put my 5 cents in and say, wait a minute, you guys, you need to hire airbrush artists and you need not charge them for their booth. They're basically the balloon artists at a birthday party. You're having a birthday party and you need to hire a balloon artist, that being the airbrusher, because he is, how would you say, making balloons for your hot rod guys that are there. In other words, they're painting a shirt for you. And that's why it's dying, because if you're paying $700 for a booth and you got to airbrush shirts to pay that $700 and then airbrush more shirts to make a profit, there's nobody is going to airbrush shirts anymore. I mean, even back in my day, I got a deal at $250 to $300, but still you got to paint $350 to that price and then make your profit after that, and you got to work your ass off for that.
You should
But
try
now
doing it with a booth where all you do is you talk on a podcast like we do. We're trying to break it down how many words per minute we had to speak to make profit.
Well, you kind of get it, and that's something that I want to put forward, to where I think there would be a more call for airbrushes to go to these car shows if they had an in. In other words, maybe not a free booth, but whatever percentage you make. So if you don't make anything, you don't pay anything. But if you make, $1,000, you make $2,000, you pay a certain percentage to the whoever's putting on the car show. I think that works for everybody.
Oh, exactly. What if, even what if you worked at a co-op? You get a couple artists working together in a booth, and maybe, they create a piece throughout the weekend that gets raffled off for charity, or proceeds go back into something for the show. There's a million different ways to do this.
There is a way to do that, but as you know, as an airbrush artist, you're trying to you have a style. And that's why we always had 2 or 3 different airbrushers at different places, because each one had a style where they look very cartoony, whether they look maybe a little more realistic. To do an airbrush shirt, you have to do it within 25, 30 minutes. I mean, to make money, you got to blow it out. And it can't be absolutely perfect, but it's got to look cool. And of course, it's got to have the guy's name on it. And sometimes it's hard working with 2 or 3. Now, when you're doing sunsets and, particular items that you pick off the board, well, that's fine. But art, when you're doing cars, each hot rod or a hot rod owner, are really particular about their car and how you do it and how you paint it and how you put it together. It's something, even when I and everybody knows, and you know as well, even when you do silk screen T-shirts, it's kind of hard when you're doing a Chevy or a Ford or a Dodge. But if you did it so hot that it doesn't matter, in other words, I'm a Chevy guy. But if I remember back in the day with Greg Tedder, and we were really good friends, Greg Tedder and I, when he did his Ford coupes, 32s and 33s, I had to have them. I mean, I'm a Chevy guy, but they were so cool. They're Fords, but I'll take that as well. So the same kind of goes with the airbrushing. If it looks cool, it's going to sell, and we kind of go from there. But I just got back from China, and there's some work to be there. And again, I've been blessed. Another Forrest Gump moment. I've had the chance to meet one of the most greatest artists in the world today. His name is Chow Yong, and he's the modern day Rembrandt, the modern day Monet. And if you were to meet Monet today, you would meet Chow Yong. He's gotten more awards than any artist out there. He's got accolades beyond anybody else. He's got pictures and signatures from the president, from the New York Fire Department, New York Police Department, because he created a painting in tribute to the 9/11. And I stumbled with him accidentally. Since then, we became friends. And this is the kind of road I'm taking. And going to China was his invitation there. And before you know it, there's people there now in China that want my artwork. And that led to another big gig. And we're getting ready to go to Africa. And I'm going to be doing some paintings there at a museum in Africa, in Nairobi. So my level of artwork now has gotten to another level there with the painting and structure. So that's where we're at. That's where I'm at with the my painting career and what have you. And it's been weird because a lot of people know me from the past. I, of course, with Facebook, people have reconnected. They're seeing what I'm doing. They remember me from way back when. And then I've gotten a little name with the digital work that's out there. But Brian, man, I'm telling you, I love your work. And it's funny how we all bounce off each other, and 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 the and the same.
Man, I'm glad I'm sitting down.
And same with Brad. I mean, Brad, you have that style with the pinstriping and lettering that it's just it construes everything that you are and what you do. My first into this pinstriping gig was meeting a guy by the name of Steve Stanford. And this goes way, way back. And boy, I mean, to know because I used to see Big Daddy Ed Roth pinstripe, and he was okay for his time and his era. But it's funny how you guys like yourself and guys like Steve Stanford that just took it to the next level. Just unbelievable, just take it to the next level. That's something I couldn't do. I mean, I tried, but even my lettering was so. But boy, you guys really can take it to that next level. It's unbelievable. So Brian, where did you get off on this? When did you start doing this?
Oh God! Well, I was gonna kind of talk to you about this. What was weird for me, I wanted to ask you. You went from the airbrushing, then you went to doing the commercial art, then to digital, and then you went into oil painting. I actually started in oil painting and went to digital. So it's really weird. So my brain is like right now it's percolating on this whole, how do we compare and contrast this? Because my digital art, which is mostly Illustrator, and it's funny because when I first started to learn the digital side, I was like you, I was doing really analog traditional stuff. The digital started to come in. And I took about a year and just said, okay, I've got to learn at the very least Adobe Creative Suite, as it's known now. And I remember going, I will never, ever, ever use Illustrator. I hate that program. It sucks. It's too complex.
I still say that.
and it's all I use now. And it's funny because I get people write to me like, well, you're a master, this. I'm thinking, yeah, I know what I do.
Yeah.
But then there's people out there who know a whole lot more. I mean, I pretty much caveman my way through it. If you broke my art down, it's an outgrowth of oil painting. Everything starts with, you do your underpainting.
Sure.
So for me, that's a sketch on paper, scan that in, and then I do it kind of like traditional cell animation. I start to block out the basic colors, get everything kind of laid out on the uppers, and then start to build from underneath like an oil painting. And for me, it's just kind of a natural outgrowth.
Yeah.
If I go back, 15, 16 years when I first touched Illustrator, man, I love it now. I'd love to meet me back then and go, dude, what are you thinking? You're going to love
Yeah.
this program. It's the greatest thing ever.
No, but you have a good sense of your highlights, your back shadows, your backlighting, your backgrounds. Everything fits, and it does. Now that you're mentioning that, it fits as a painter. I mean, it's remarkable work. It's funny how we all bounce off and we get to know these other artists that are out there, but Photoshop, it just seems more of an art tool for me because of the airbrushing, the paths, the softness, and for me there's a bit more control in how I can do these. Once I'd start learning layers and the path lines in there, that's all it took. Because it took a while to understand what I needed to do with cars. But man, yours are right on. They're very stealth. They're clean, and it's fun that when we know these people back and forth, we kind of bounce ideas off each other. I kind of see your site you doing and like, oh yeah, that looks cool. Let me grab this and that from there as well. So
I'm honored.
yeah, we all learned. But like I said, I'm coming back with oil paintings, and in about 3 years, I'm going to do some automotive oil paintings, but in a different light. And I think you'll be blown away at what I'm going to do. And I have a whole series that I'm putting together. But I want to get my oil paintings down to a just exactly perfect the way I want it. And then I'm going to do this series. And the series is almost like back to Big Daddy Ed Roth. And my problem with the people that do Big Daddy Ed Roth is that it's all copied. I mean, it's been done over and over and over again. But the direction that I'm going, with the Big Daddy Ed Roth is not Big Daddy Ed Roth. It's my style, my way with the newer cars. Think of the newer cars as gassers. Think of the newer cars as the same ones with the guy with the arm sticking out, shifting gears, whether it be it a brand new Challenger, a brand new Camaro, a brand new car, but now bring that into focus and bring something new but old with the fire coming out of the exhaust and the tires just burning up, but in a more realistic, more fantasy, more powerful opus look that you go, oh my God. So I'm just going to leave it at that. That's what I'm dreaming up. That's what I'm putting together. But I love landscape. It's funny that I'm going from hot rod illustrating to landscape, but I just love the natural ability of landscape. And it's just something that I've always dreamed of doing. Sad note, my parents passed away. My mom just passed away in November of last year, 18. And then 3 months later, February 2nd, my dad passes away. So I've been out of the loop for a while in more ways than one, but I'm coming back again. And hopefully we'll do another podcast next year of some sort. And we'll kind of catch up where I'm going and what I'm doing.
Very much so, yeah. And I wanted to extend my sympathies. I didn't want to bring that up on the show, but man, that's a hell of a thing to go through. And man,
well, it's hard for us, for artists, because we think we wear our our minds on our shoulders in a way, let's say, and to think about the next move, the next paint, the next color, the next design. And it's so hard when that happens, and it's reality. It happens to us, and I kind of went in a little depression, not much, but that they're up there and they're out there looking at you, and I wish they would have seen my second half, but they're there. But now it's time to move on and do the things that I'm meant to do. So life is exciting again, and we're back on board, and I'm really honored to be on this podcast now that I know what you guys are doing and the people that have been in front of me. I'm just elated that I'm here talking to you guys.
Oh, we're elated to have you, man. And
for sure.
that was kind of one of the subjects you had mentioned earlier. You had talked about your divorce, and when I went through mine, it was kind of a similar thing. And like you just mentioned, with as artists, we think a lot, and I
Yeah,
think a lot of it has to do with you're really focused on the right side of the brain is doing the creative work, but
sure.
that really leaves that nagging left side to do
Yeah,
nothing but
yep,
chatter the entire time.
sure.
And it's funny. I mean, like you'd mentioned, when you got involved with your work with Disney, you found an outlet where you could kind of shut your brain off,
Sure.
kind of do your thing. And for me, a lot of that was, well, hooking up with these guys, doing the podcast stuff,
Hmm.
taking on work that was a little outside the regular car stuff, and just kind of throwing myself into it. And I realized between that and just focusing on the kid, my brain,
Yeah,
I found a nice balance between right and left brain. I mean, don't get
good.
me wrong, every now and then I want to take the left brain and kick its teeth in.
Yeah, yeah. But that's how we are. I mean, we're built that way. It's inherent to us. It's funny you would explain that, because that goes with the artist that is really an artist, that really thinks, because there's a lot of thought. People don't understand. They think our life is so, having a cake and eating it too, which is, it's there. But
Sometimes, yeah,
everybody here
sometimes
in
you can
this
afford the
circle,
cake.
no, that's right. But that's the whole thing. Like anything else in life, it doesn't just come to you. It just doesn't appear. It takes tenacity. It takes work. It takes literally times that you're going to get shot down a couple times. I mean, I can't tell you how many times back in the day, getting shot down. But you just scrub it off and you just keep going. You just keep going, and um, you try to get out of the norm. You do your style, your way. And if it wasn't for some of those chances that we take, I don't think I'd be here. I'd be doing something else. But the other thing, of course, now with the new wife that I have, and that's another thing, is having a spouse that really, we're like realtors. There's feast and famine in our type of job. We can be just cranking out and doing great work. And the following month is like, where is everybody at? Why isn't anybody calling? Why, and you got to have that spouse that picks you
Boy.
up and continues on, and adds to that deal, and keeps you in there and saying, hey, dude, you need to get a job.
Well, well, now here's the funny part about those lulls, though. My problem has always been, I'm a workaholic. I
Yeah,
understand that. Yeah, my name is Brian. I'm a workaholic.
yeah, yeah.
I get that.
Hi, Brian.
Hey guys, I bet you didn't know that about me, guys.
Yeah, yeah.
But what's weird for me is, as I get older, I'm starting to realize now that there was a lot of lost opportunity when there was that downtime. For me, I was always just, it's because I think I was brought up to really appreciate everything you have in that moment, because it could be
Oh
gone in the
my
next.
God. Yeah,
So
you hit the nail on the head right there. You said it all in that word right there. Lost time.
yeah,
Yep.
you
Mm.
don't stop to think, okay, hey, it's a blessing when there's the downtimes, and
Yeah.
I didn't realize that until, well, this week. Really, right now. And a great moment of enlightenment. And no, I'm
Right.
not sitting on the toilet, so this is great.
Great. Okay.
Visual for you. But it's weird that you don't, you kind of look at it differently later in life, where I think now, if I could go back in time and talk to me, I'd say, look, dude, there's going to be down times.
Right.
It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of all the work. It's going to come back in. And when it comes in, you're going to be overwhelmed by it again. Take this time here, do something totally different. And I
Wow.
think my fear was, I didn't want to do that at the time, because I thought either A, I'd give up on what I was doing, because
Right.
you figure, okay, the work's gone, blah blah. I really should have pursued things, and as I'd slowly make time for that every now and then, I'd kind of dabble into it. You find the pet projects you love, and for me, it was astrophysics. I fell in love with that,
Wow.
and that's my,
Wow.
oh yeah, it's my game. I bore Brad to death sometimes. I call him.
Nerd. Nerd alert. Nerd alert.
Yeah, I
Wow.
feel bad.
Astrophysics. Wow.
Well, he's not telling the whole story. It's that he wants to know the physics of making an Astrovan fast.
That's what it is.
Oh,
That's what he's trying. He's trying to make it
Uh,
sound like it's more than what it really is. But
yes.
yes,
there you go.
yes.
This is my life. I mean, it's well enjoyed. I kind of I'm working on my last client right now, doing a children's book for a client, and that's the last book that I'm doing. I wasn't going to do this, but it was a great storyline behind it. And as we get older, and we've had our kids, we understand what things are and need to be done. And as she explained this to me, I go, my God, it's such a positive book, and kids need something positive. And she had a great storyline, some great characters in it, and she talked me into it. So I said, okay, this definitely is going to be the last book I do. So I'm just about done with that. It takes about another month, and then I'm out, and then I've got my wings to spread and start oil painting, and then a lot of media is going to go behind that too. I got to get into the realm of, being in that type of work of oil painting and creating and just booking myself. There's a art show in Palm Springs that's become one of the biggest art shows in the nation, and that's the goal next year is to get into that. And my main goal within 3 years is to be in the Gene Autry Museum, where they have the Southwestern artists, their masters paint. So I'm setting my goal there to be there in 3 years. So let's see if that happens.
Awesome. So
That's a great goal.
Yeah.
now,
Wow.
are you stretching your own canvases?
I am going to be. I'm literally. We got a 4-bedroom house here, and I have a production room that we're going to do all the photography in there, create all the stretched canvases, working not with canvas but with linens, which are a little bit more expensive. But from what I hear, the paint is a lot smoother. It goes on a lot better. Plus, it's more historical type of canvas that is needed for years and years and years, as opposed to just canvas. But all my preliminary work was on canvas, and I will continue to do that until I'm really ready to go more of the master work. But like anything else, I'm learning as I go along, and thank God for YouTube's, and I have several people that I go onto and just get ideas, and it's great. You don't have to go to these schools or get it taught by somebody. They literally let you know how it's done, like anything else, even with Photoshop. Now you go on YouTube, you tell them you want this, this, and this, or type it in, and you've got it. It's amazing how much we've got in front of us that we can just go to YouTube or go to these certain type of formats, and we can learn just about anything. You can learn how to freaking rebuild a 350 if you wanted to. It's all there, piece by piece, part by part. So thank God for that, I guess.
Well, if you ever want to really warp your brain, if you haven't read this book, pick up a copy. They're fun to find. Salvador Dali had written a book, 50 Secrets of Magic Craftsmanship.
Secrets.
Granted, it's pure Salvador Dali, typical, but it's so great when you get into like things on prepping your surface for work, the things that you do, and it's like 900 steps. It's like go out and find the sea urchin and refine it and put its oil on your fingertips. It's so bizarre.
Wow. Well, that's Salvador.
Yeah, and it's well worth reading. And I did want to ask you though, what we got here. You have quite the impressive collection of airbrushes.
Ah, yes.
I ratted you out, man.
Wow.
This is knowledge in the art world, kids.
Yeah, I got about over 1,000.
Wow.
They're all antiques, and they're kind of paying homage to something that I'm going to be developing in the future. I would like to create an airbrush type and illustrative museum. And I now know so many people out there that have the old school illustrations on illustration board, and they're not known, they're not out, but they have them in a closet, they have them somewhere back in their deep crevices. And my goal is to someday create a museum with the airbrushes and pay homage to these great illustrators that were from back in the day, and even up to these later years of the 90s that just did phenomenal. There's Charles and White, there's just on and on, Jeff Lefevre, and just so many airbrushers that did commercial art that were phenomenal back in the day. Kelly Mouse, there's just so many, and they have illustrations that are in closets. So I'm going to get those originals out and make a museum and have all these airbrushes And I'm not the only one. There's another person by the name of Gerald Mendez that also probably even has more than I do, and he has more of the European collection, and they're just phenomenal. It's like a jewelry display case to have all these airbrushes. They're pretty nice. I'll have to snap a shot and kind of send you some stuff that I got here just in the studio and display.
And I wonder too, if you're going to create a museum like that, the trick has got to be the timeliness of it, because so much of that work was created on media that is degrading as it sits there.
Right.
You know, you get stuff that's literally rotting away in a drawer. And
No, you're absolutely right. It all depends on how that artwork, if it's one in a drawer covered, uh, there's certain ways you can show it off. But in this museum, you have to have UV lighting. You have to have dark areas. The light that's on it has to be UV protected. I mean, yeah, because if you have too much light on it in 50 years, you're going to definitely see the fading in a picture like that. So a lot of work has to be done to preserve them, and to, when you do have people viewing them, that there's a certain light that kicks on that shows it, and you only see it for X amount of time, and then it got to go off to preserve it for a duration of time. So yeah, it is hard as far as lighting is concerned, because that's the difference between the oil and the acrylic, and that's why it was never a fine art gesture back in the day. You could never find a gallery with airbrush in it because, of course, the oils are going to last a whole lot longer than the acrylic work. But now they've got paints that can last the years, that are museum accredited, museum approved, that will last the test of time, just like the oils. So, we've come a long way with that.
oh yeah, and I think it would be funny to see, a museum of airbrushed mini truck hoods where a bunch of these where the pigment is
Club back
completely shot out.
Hey,
How come it's all different areas of white with some different kind of black pinstriping? Oh no, one time, man, it was
yeah.
36 shades of purple.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, we laugh about it, but who knows? That might be a thing where it's collective. It's vintage. It's artwork, and I would not surpass sides of a van cut out just so that the wall, that mural that was on it, is on a wall somewhere. Because yeah, it too is a piece of artwork that people just want to look at. It's eye candy. It's the whole thing. It's eye candy. And if we can stimulate other people's brains with what we paint, what we design, that's it. We're in.
You walk into a museum one day and you see the side of a Chevy van with the Molly Hatchet album cover on the side of it.
Yes.
Dude, you're reading my mind. Exactly.
I would love to do a museum display of really bad Frazetta. I mean, just
or
they were
bad
everywhere.
Boris or Frazetta jobs.
I've seen my share. Oh my God. Yeah. Especially at car shows. I can't believe it. This is funny. There's another thing that we can go into. It's sort of like American Idol. These people that think they can sing, and you hear them sing, and they think, boy, they're the best. And like, how in the heck did they get there? And it's the same thing with these murals. How in the heck did that guy pay to get a Frazetta painting on a motorcycle, and it looks like crap? My God.
And it's always the local guy, and nothing against. I mean, everybody starts somewhere, but you always hear the story where you're looking at it, you're cringing, and they go, "Oh man, this is by Zap. Zap's our local dude, man, and he's the best in the tri-state area." And you're going,
"Yeah, oh my God, holy crap!
Is that a woman or a cat on this?"
But what makes it a clear? Once you put clear on it, it's great.
It brings everything out.
Brings everything out, exactly. Oh, wonderful.
I can remember that one. That's great.
But that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, collecting airbrushes, getting into oil painting, and it's been a long road. It's funny when I go to SEMA. You guys will be at SEMA, and it's the people that you meet there and how I keep connected, more or less. But I think I took a good, I made a good move. I'm happy at that move. I'm glad at what I did, but I too would have been the guy at SEMA doing the hot rods, doing probably where Fritz is, and doing that type of painting as well. But the Disney work, I don't regret it. I love it. I learned a lot, and that was the best thing about it. One little story: I did work for Imagineering. I went in there for about 3 months. I got hired there, but I just could not handle it in a sense that it's so demanding. Everybody in there is educated. Everybody in there has a master's in art of some sort. They're nerds. They're incredibly qualified for that type of job. And as you see all these cubicles, as far as you can see, you can almost see the vapor of the ego that's going on in there, because I couldn't. I was working on a project, and I was asking this guy that was just the cube over, about some things and some steps that I needed to take. And man, he made it sound like, don't ever come into my booth again and ask me this. I don't have time for you. And that kind of, well, opened my eyes up, and to know that certain classification of artwork, and I just wasn't having fun in there. To where other places that I worked, when I worked at the Disney store, now that was awesome, because I didn't really know much about the digital work that I thought I knew until I started asking questions. And those guys, yeah, they would literally say, well, you got to do this, this, and this to it, and don't forget this overlay, or something to do with buttons I didn't even know were on Photoshop. And then I would do what they told me how to do it, and then I would add my own. When I got home, I'd add my own little split to it, and before you know it, following week is, how did you do that? Well, remember what you told me to do, this, this, and this. Well, I just added that, and that, and that's how the world moves. It's funny. We are where we are because of Brian like you, because of Brad like you, Alex. I don't know if you paint or.
No, I build airplanes.
There you go. You build airplanes, but the people around us, whether we see it or they see it from us, it's a growing. We wouldn't be where we at. The artwork wouldn't be where it's at if we didn't all glance at other pieces of artwork and get a little snippet here, a little bit of snippet there. They in turn do something to it, and then we see it, and then, oh boy, let's do this to it. And that's where we're at today. I mean, look at the artwork. I mean, this is a good time. This is a great age to see artwork, and the colors that are coming out, the design work, everything that's involved with what we're doing today. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy to see the artwork, and I'm really looking for the future and what's going on there as well.
Yeah, and to dovetail on that, with social media now, you can see it
Yep.
instantly. And so
Exactly.
there's some great stuff out there from
Mm,
people you've
mm,
never heard of, that you'd never ever know of.
absolutely,
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
Well, and
phenomenal.
even better, that sense of community that builds off of that.
Yeah,
Everybody's really cool for the most part. I mean, yeah, there's a few guys who are standoffish and
yeah,
chalk that up to social awkwardness, or just a part of the personality, whatever. But like you'd mentioned, working in a place where the ego vapor was there,
yeah.
I worked at a job for quite a while where, and I used to refer to that ego vapor. For me, it was egoplasm, and you'd walk around, just kind of slide on it across the floor, because
Yeah.
it would just spill out of these guys' offices. For me, again, being just a bullheaded Pollock, I kind of grew up in this world where you learn really quick to just figure out how to do stuff on your own.
Sure,
So for me, it became this challenge. It was like, hey, how do I do this? Well, I'm not going to tell you. Just figure. I tried to figure it out. And I go, okay, great.
sure.
I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to do better than you ever dreamt of doing it.
Exactly, exactly.
That's my own egoplasm. I just spilled all over the floor. Great.
No. But that's the cool thing about this all, is that there is a big connect with, and that's the other thing I tell people about Facebook. It's good and it's bad. It's all on how you use it. And I've seen friends get torn apart with Facebook, but then again, I see friends literally learn a lot off it, and that's how I'm at. I'm in the middle. I'm like an independent. I go no here nor there. I don't start any fires. I don't put out any fires. I just do what I do, and but I see what I see, and in that respect, it's a great thing. If you're going to torture yourself, that's your problem. If you're ready to take on the world, well, have at it. Verbally, I'm saying, and it's funny how people have a strong mind when it comes to typing, and you don't see anybody in front of you, and that's their boat. But my boat has always been optimistic. And just like you said, Brian, if you can see it and nobody's going to tell you how to do it, you figure it out. You just figure that baby out and you work at it until you get it done. And like you said, I'll get it done better than the other guy. But then you always have those people that I know that I can call many of friends, and of course with Brad and yourself, that if I needed something or needed help, I'm sure I'll get it, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
I will certainly tell you the wrong. I mean, I'd tell you the 100% way to do it. No, in a heartbeat, man. I'd be honest.
Wink, wink. Is that a wink, wink?
He's coming to me. I would be second guessing myself the entire time I was telling you. I was like, is this going to be good enough for him?
Well, what you guys got to do with these podcasts, and I'm going to give you a little insight, because I wish I would have done it. And I love what you guys are doing here, but someday go live with this and go into the studios and talk and see the guy's studio.
Should we let do we let the cat out of the bag?
Hey,
Let's hint at what we were a little bit ahead of that curve on what we've been doing on the side. We can't say much about it.
Sure.
There's a bigger part of this. This is but one small cog.
Great.
In a really, really convoluted, messy machine.
It's all that eye candy. It's that stuff that people only dream about. Can you imagine back in the day seeing Big Deal and then seeing his artwork and meeting the guy? I was fortunate to meet him because I went to a birthday party of I have a crush for names. But anyway, Big Deal was there. Steve Stanford was there. I was taken there by Tedder, Greg Tedder.
Wow.
I met Big Deal, and he went to his car, he brought it back, and he signed a model of a split bumper 1970 Camaro that I say here I had. He says, because we were talking about cars, and that was my high school car, was the split bumper Camaro. So he walks out to his car and he opens his trunk and he's got all these models and he's looking through, and sure enough, he's got the split bumper Camaro. He signs it, Big Deal on it to Art. I'm like, oh my God.
Were those like the ones that came out in the early 70s? Was it one of those?
Yes.
Oh, those were so cool.
Coolest things ever, man.
Absolutely amazing. But that's the thing. To know this guy, his studio, and his annex, who he is, and what have you, because that was another guy that, man, talk about a hero, talking about an icon, talking about copying his work, because it was just so out there, so cool, so cartoony, so well done, so well thought out. Oh my God, it was just so fun to see. Absolutely so fun to see, and to meet the guy personally, it was just an awesome, to have met him.
Thank you, Art, for coming on. That was that's what we wanted to hear. We wanted to get a little insight on you, and I'm glad you came on here. I really am.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very appreciative of it, and looking forward now to hearing your future podcasts. Waiting to see who you guys got next, and I'm going to even go back and listen to more of these. This is a great deal, and like I said, kudos to you guys. Love what you guys are doing, and this is good.
One to recommend, listen to the James Owens one.
James Owens. Oh, man, there's a guy, too. Now, there's an artist.
To You Will Die Laughing.
Yes,
James Owens
he's a
is
funny dude.
Riot.
Jim's not only a hell of an artist, but one hell of an entertaining human being.
Oh, I bet. No, I mean, he's intellectual and he's funny. I met Jim several times at the car show at the Nationals over here, and what a guy. His artwork is next to none. I mean, it's just phenomenal artist. Yeah. And that's the other thing. Literally, he just took it to the next level, and his artwork is just stupendous. I think we all gaga over that.
He's got just some great ideas that he works with, too. It's just phenomenal.
Wow. Wow. Well, Brad, when you come, I was going to just mention a couple of things. I've invented some things, too. That are going to be coming out in the next couple of years. We're working on patents and trademarks, and it will help the airbrushing community and the painting community and the multimedia community. So we're excited about that. So a lot of things are coming over the horizon. Just seems like there's not enough days, and isn't it? as we get older, it just where the freak the time goes, man.
Yeah.
We wake up in the morning and you're already in the bed going, what the heck happened today? It's just amazing that as the older we get, we're getting closer to that. It's literally when they say over the hill and you're going down, man, it is fast. It's going quick.
Well, remember, there's that part in your life when you want time to go so fast. And then there's that time you want it to just slow down.
Oh, that's where I'm at. Slow down, slow the freak down,
Yeah.
So, well, thanks again, guys. I really appreciate the onboard and being number 61. I'm going to have to write that down and know that that's the one. So thanks again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for making time. Thanks for sharing.
Brad,
Hey.
We'll see you soon.
Absolutely, sir. Be talking to you soon.
All right, buddy.
Thanks,
All right,
man.
guys.
All
Take
right,
care.
Idea.
Hey, have a great night, Art.
You too. Bye-bye.
Well, man, that was a hell of a trip into the magic kingdom of Art's brain, man.
It's not a small world.
Ooh.
Hey, okay.
Ba-dum-bum.
You're sir.
Wow. Yeah, Brett, what do you got, man?
Yeah.
I got nothing.
Hall of Presidents? Come on.
Not gone with like some kind of magic teacup? Anything?
Yeah.
I got
Climbing
nothing.
Space Mountain right now or something?
It was a wild ride.
Oh.
Ooh. I guess it all just doesn't matter horn anymore.
Oh.
Again, great to have Art Alvarez with us, man. A guy who obviously has done just a little bit of everything and has been really good at it.
Yes.
Yep.
Jeez Louise. That's
And I like the Forrest Gump analogies there. That was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely a guy with a command of right time, right place, and right attitude. So, man, if there's anything you can learn from that, positive attitude, a crapload of inhuman talent, and being able to sleep just 3 or 4 hours a night, and you too can have a collection of thousands of airbrushes. It's great, though, having a guy who has done automotive art, fine art, and is now kind of moving into a whole new segment of his life.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what he's got planned, because he seemed really, really excited about it, and it's going to be pretty cool.
No doubt, man. And I think he had a lot of good points, too. I mean, here's a guy who, even though he's going into that new kind of level where, I mean, you're talking museum work and being with other masters in the world, still has his finger on the pulse of what would help an up-and-coming airbrush artist at a local show. That's pretty badass.
Yeah, yeah.
I really think, not to make a pun, but I think that really illustrates what this whole thing's about, man. And very cool.
Yes, absolutely.
A big thank you, though, on a serious note, to our continuing sponsor, the good folks over at Trailer Tug, the world's strongest trailer dolly. Cannot say thanks enough, man. They have kept the lights on here. Well, at least one of the lights on here. Brad, it's your week to go without light, so
It was your turn. So
I'm enjoying every moment of it. I have an incandescent tan that rivals freaking George Hamilton. Yeah, that all said, go to trailertug.com, and if you use the code word round6 at checkout, you receive 10% off your order. That simple. Wow, at the end of this episode, I am no longer a grumpy Brian.
wow, man, I got nothing. I truly got nothing.
Well, I'm a
Brad.
freshly airbrushed Alex.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Brad, you could have totally gone for a Pocahontas reference.
I had nothing. It was just there was nothing there, man. I had nothing to grab onto. Oh.
It's all good, though. Don't forget, though, it's a small world, Brad.
And see, that's what I couldn't get out of my brain was a small world, and I couldn't go there because it's like, oh, I'm going to be thinking about that for another week. So,
or at least until we get into Tomorrowland.
yeah.
Disney puns aplenty. All right. Thank you for listening to us. Why you do that? Well, that's on you. But seriously, thanks again for listening to us, supporting this, and again, thanks to our guest tonight, Art Alvarez. If you'd like, you can check out more of Art's work and learn even more about the guy's incredible career over on his website at aalvarezdesign.com. All right, guys. Well, hey, thanks again for joining us. Thank you guys for making it a great show, gentlemen. And yeah, we will catch you guys next week.
Back at you.
Hey.
See ya. Thanks again for listening, and be sure to keep up with our Gearheads over on our website at www.round6pod.com. And if you'd like to, we invite you to follow along with us over on Facebook, Instagram, and be sure to check out all of our latest videos on youtube.com. Big thanks once again to our sponsor, Trailer Tug. Please visit them at trailertug.com and learn more about the world's strongest trailer dolly. Our listeners receive 10% off their order when they use the discount code ROUND6 at checkout or when calling their order in.